I'm on.
Yeah, you're on.
Sound check, video check. How's everything coming through? Oh, howdy, folks. Oh. Thank you. Oh, yeah, the weather's been unusually mild this winter over here.
Hi, Jeff. Jeff Bybee is here. Hello, Jeff. Hi, honey bunny.
So,
I'm going to go get my phone. If don't touch anything.
uh, so anyhow, yeah, it's been unusually mild. I think since last week, it's hit the lowest so far, which was 7 below zero, which around here is pretty mild for this time of year. So, hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hi, Chris.
I see. Look at Jeff. Hi, Eva and Keith. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Well, yeah.
Anyhow, so for those of you who may not have seen it last week or whatever, Lars from This Old Mine with Lars has a GoFundMe up, so I got it right there because he lost his house and his. Hey, Lars, how's it going? I should be able to get something off to you in a little bit over a week once I get my next Social Security check.
Hi, Lars.
Trying not to get a sinus infection. Well, I would definitely approve of that strategy, Chris. Absolutely. Is everything going reasonably well under the circumstances, Lars? You know, obviously it's not going well, but say things doing reasonably at least. Yeah, yeah, it's everything's been fine here. Hey, Patrick, how's it going? So again, not doing much in the way of mining. Trying to do a little work on the YouTube channel. We also made a batch of salsa, and when we make a batch of salsa, we'll can one canner full, which is 7 quarts, and then whatever's left, we'll put some insanely hot habaneros and serranos that are finally chopped up in, and can that in pints for Lauren. He really likes that stuff.
Hi,
so that
Patrick.
works out well. And we've been working on the water system here to try and make sure when it gets really cold, it's not a problem. Seem to have got the hot water system to where nothing's happening there. The cold water system, I got a bunch of insulation to put in the box that surrounds the end of the pipe where it goes.
Did you want to put the? Whoa! Did you want to put precious metal prices up on the board?
We could. What?
Let me get back to that page. Okay. So gold is currently at $2,745.30.
So it's going down a little bit.
Well, it's actually up $4.80 at the moment.
Oh,
Silver is $30.14. Platinum and palladium are both $943, and rhodium is $4,525.
Not much in the way of changes there. So let's see what else. Haven't had a chance to do anything on the X-ray film because really need to get another shredder, and it's the end of the month. Don't have my Social Security check yet, so can't afford to buy a shredder at the moment. And
Yeah, Honey Bunny's gonna try a box of black bean pasta.
and I got the 6 tons of firewood preliminary dealt with. I have between a cord and 2 cords split and stacked.
Lars says 45-25. I'm going rhodium hunting.
And I got about 2.5 cords of rounds that are trimmed to length, all stacked up and covered with a tarp, neatly stacked and covered. So I'm in pretty good shape now with the firewood situation. I got, I can probably go a month without even splitting any new wood if I had to. But temperature inside has been quite pleasant. No problem at all keeping it pleasant. The cold water likes to try and freeze up when it gets below 0. So I got a few things to deal with.
Yeah,
that.
we're discussing rhodium, that's all. Hi, Grant.
Hello, Grant. When it comes to
Chris Georgie says old silver jewelry was often rhodium plated when it was still cheap.
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
indeed it was.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm looking at is with the platinum and palladium prices staying as low as they are, it has had an interesting side effect in that the number of catalytic converters being stolen is down a little.
By the way, Chris, do you know why rhodium jumped so enormously? So it used to be pretty cheap, cheaper than platinum.
It's actually hit 20,000 before. It's in the toilet.
Oh, I know. But I mean, it used to be at like 300.
Grant Rennie says, any thoughts on overlooked rare earth metals?
Not in particular. It's not my specialty. So I really don't have much insight into that. I know that.
Well, there's a couple of things that need to be considered here.
Okay.
Around the world now, we are seeing a crash in the number of people that want to buy EVs. I mean, we saw a lot of speculation in the heavy metals, in rare earth metals in general, and in the metals used to make batteries and tech, because everybody said, EVs are going to go right through the roof. Ta-da! So this is a great thing to get in on. But the sales have just tanked everywhere on EVs, and there's more and more coverage on the fact that these batteries are not exactly green. And then there's the matter of the
I don't think the rare earths are used in the batteries, though. I think it's just in the motors.
The rare earths are also used in building like solar panels and wind turbines.
I know the wind turbine again for the magnets and the generators and stuff. I'm not aware of what they use them for in solar cells. I'm not disagreeing. It's just I'm not aware. I know they use a lot of silver in the solar cells.
They're beginning to look more and more articles are actually coming out about how environmentally damaging some of the rare earth mining can be, and how difficult it is to recycle these things. The veil is beginning to be lifted on the greenwashing issue. So I don't see rare earths in general and the other oddball things associated with the great green agenda going to the moon anytime soon.
Yeah, they're probably going to be pretty stable for a while.
That is true, Chris. They are used as dopants too, but
Well, I would think things like cobalt, etc. They
Yeah,
have a lot of other uses, like for high temperature turbines. And,
they do, but more and more people are becoming aware of just how disastrous the mining associated with it is in many parts of the world.
yeah, but again, it's that price is going to stay up. I think rare earths may go down a little bit because again, you get these boom and bust cycles. They're trying to work 10 years in the future. By the time you explore, develop, permit, and get into production, it's 5 to 10 years. So they're always working way ahead, trying to figure out what the demand's going to be. And I agree. The electric vehicles are going to be down, but on the other hand, hybrid vehicles are not suffering too much, and they use motors also.
Yeah.
They just use a lot smaller batteries.
Well, the other thing, we've already seen a major shakeup in platinum and stuff. It's come to the point where Stillwater is now finally in full care and maintenance, as I heard.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah, Stillwater here in Montana, because there's just, you know, uh, platinum market is down so ridiculously right now.
Oh.
Jeff Bybee says rhodium's used for catalysts and nitric acid production, catalytic converters, and hypoallergenic jewelry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the jewelry thing I knew about, but so it's kind of a
Wow, Desert Hot Springs, California got snow last night and today, and there may be more on the way. Chris says new production's a few years out on some massive rare earth deposits.
yeah,
Well, I think it will be interesting to see
a lithium
where
too.
the public perception goes on this as well. Because more and more it's beginning to, yeah, it is a good time to buy platinum and palladium. You should be backing the truck up on those if you
Yeah.
want to stack them. Because there is a growing shift in public perception as to rare earths in general and the
Yeah.
products they're used in. More and more people are becoming aware that a whole lot of this so-called green tech is anything but green, and it's beginning to annoy them.
Well, it's also not energetically effective because the energy source itself is so diffuse, sunlight, wind, stuff like that. The efficiencies are relatively poor, so the equipment that turns it into electricity can only do so much. And there's only so much wind, and there's only so much sun, and it's intermittent, so now you need energy storage and stuff. So it adds a lot of complications compared to fossil fuel or nuclear or even hydroelectric. You know, hydroelectric is easy to turn on and off very quickly, you know? And so that is, um, it's just one of those deals where, you know, if people did the math and went with the science, they would say, well, you know, renewables are a niche energy source. There's sometimes it works fine, there's a lot of times it doesn't, but no matter what you do, you're going to have to supplement with something else. If you want to get rid of carbon dioxide, build nuclear. You know? I agree, Shiny. Yeah, I can't do much exploration here, although we're also starting to do some more research, which brings me to a point. I the gentleman I work for, I staked a couple claims for him, a couple mines several years ago. I did some research, found a couple mines that looked like they had potential. It doesn't take much money to stake a claim and everything. And so we staked them. And I was thinking that I haven't talked to him about it yet, but since he wants to sell them, I can't see a problem. Doing a series of videos on exactly how I did the research and what I was looking for, and then staking the claims and sampling the mines and all that other stuff. And I could use very specific examples, and I could go to where I'm actually looking in the literature and showing you, video of the screen and stuff. And that would make it potentially interesting. Hey, Jean-Francois. So I think that would be pretty educational for people. And as I say, it's one of those things where, secrecy is no longer critical on those claims there. Trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen this summer, have no clue. Okay? I'll be doing something somewhere somehow. Don't worry about that. But exactly what is really up in the air right now. We got
I'll be there in a second.
lots of possibilities that, we'll no doubt there'll be some this, that, and the other. Whether we get something that's like focus on one project or not, I don't know. But it's
Hi,
kind of hard to predict here. Of course, everything's kind of hard to predict right now. Last week's been pretty tumultuous. Seems to be going okay so far. But I was thinking that would be something that I could do that would be useful, something I could do in the wintertime here. Another thing we got is Eva has her surgery. I don't know if I said this last week. It's scheduled for the 11th of February. So we will be heading off to Billings, Montana, which is 225 miles away.
I just got a notification on a video on some stupid channel called Hard Rock University about shaved ice falling from a clear blue sky.
Yeah, that guy's an asshole. Don't pay any attention to him.
Okay.
But anyhow, so it's highly probable we will have no live stream on Monday the 10th because we're going to be on the road and doing that. Presumably, Eva will have her surgery on the 11th and we'll come back on the 12th. But as I say, it's a 200-mile journey. So I want to make sure Eva's in good enough shape to travel before we head back. So we'll just play that.
Guy's got 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah. We can, we've used the cell phone before and such when we were on the trip, but I have to check. I think, what computer were we using on that?
We were not using any computer we're using now.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is, when we were in the car,
Yeah.
doing our
We were using your old laptop, not this one.
that one there. Okay, yeah. I was like, we shall see, but I don't know whether or not we'll do anything. But do not be surprised if there is no live stream on the 10th. Okay, simply don't know, but don't worry about it if there's not. The surgery that Eva's doing is pretty routine. So, it's not like the last time where she was getting surgery for cancer. That was anything but routine. But this shouldn't be a problem. Just want to let you all know that would not be this, next week, but the week after. And we're just getting to the point where the 10-day weather forecast is just starting to touch that travel time. And right now the weather's looking good so far. It's also been pretty stable in that 10-day period. It's pretty much all the same, which is weather in the, daytime in the 20s and nighttime around 0 or so, no real precipitation. Conditions like that are perfectly fine for traveling. As long as there's no snow and the winds are not insane. Grant. Hello, Grant. Yep. You take care. So, I say it's looking good, but of course, my primary focus is going to be on Eva during that time period. So don't expect anything. And when we get back, I'll post something to just let everyone know how she's doing. So that's the evil plan. I don't know how many of you saw that little video I posted today. I was wondering, first of all, did you like the format? It was just a quick little personal thing. There was no mining thing or whatever, so I just put it up.
Jean-Francois says, meteorology, the art and science that consists of predicting the weather that should have been.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyhow, I thought for what I was showing, that was a pretty good way of doing it. You know, you don't spend all the time listening to the intro and the extro and all that other stuff. Could you give me some feedback, some people? Did you like the way I did that? That seemed like a good way to do it, as opposed to editing, intro, extro, and stuff like that. Yeah, yesterday we had an interesting situation, Honey Bunny. It was like 20 degrees around noon. Sky is blue, and these little flakes of ice are falling from the sky, kind of like confetti. It was very pretty, but it was weird. They weren't like hexagonal snowflakes. They were just sheets of ice. It was pretty wild. You don't need fixer, Jean-Francois. You need sodium hypochlorite, I believe, which is fixer. Or is it sodium thiosulfate? Sodium thiosulfate, I think. Look it up. But yeah, you should be able to just make your own fixer per se, because you're looking at gold chloride. Yeah, thiosulfate. So just get some sodium thiosulfate. Yeah, how do you happen to know what the concentration is, Chris? Hey, Dave, how's it going? So, yeah, that undeveloped film should be pretty easy. Although, I'm not sure if you'd have to kind of keep it in the dark while you do that or not. Because if you use light, you know, if you're doing it in the light, it's going to tend to be converting to silver pretty rapidly. So it would be best in dark, that's for sure. Hello, John. Yeah, it was kind of like shaved ice falling from the sky. It was very pretty stuff. Okay. It really was pretty on the ground. It looked exceptional. And it was, as I say, just kind of odd. Wasn't a whole lot of it, but it was a clear drizzle, you know? Yeah. So, as I say, I thought that was a good way of doing it. There's some around here, shiny. Don't know, exactly where you'd find a modest-sized one. We got some big-sized ones. But, yeah, we definitely got copper. We got lead, zinc, silver. We got, I think, lead, tin, silver. Stuff like that, too. I think in up there by Boulder, about 30 miles from here, they even had native silver in the placers, if I recall. Not native silver, native tin in the placers. And so that was kind of an unusual thing. Not hugely so. But that's kind of the situation around here. It's been going fairly smoothly, but focusing more on, and mining wise on the YouTube channel and paperwork type research. And I'll see, I say, assuming I can get permission, which I don't foresee a problem with anyhow, assuming I get permission, I'll make some videos to show how I looked at, found it, etc. Yeah, there's lots of copper around here, Dave. But against what? Gold not only protects against inflation, but against perhaps deflation? Okay. So, I say that's kind of the situation. Little one, I can't. Against evaluation. Okay.
Yeah. The Canadian versus the U.S.
Yeah, those Kazakhstani. What is the? I'm just curious, Jean-Francois. What does the average Canadian think of Trump's statements about making Canada the 51st state? First of all, it should be at least 5 or 6 states. Come on. But I'm just curious what their reaction is to that. I think it's to a great extent just a troll. It's a distraction. See the hand? See the hand? Well, that's my guess. But I'm just wondering what your, and there's no such thing as an average Canadian, just like there's no such thing as an average American. But I'm just kind of wondering what the reaction was to that.
Jean-Francois said, half say cool. Well, I'll tell you what, Jean-Francois, we will happily, if you get all the halves that say cool, congregated in a couple of provinces.
Alberta, Saskatchewan.
We will happily annex those provinces, and the rest of them can stay where they are.
Yeah, we can leave.
Wage Slave says we would all move south. The lefties can stay up there, please.
Well, we could take Vancouver and turn it into a city-state, and then everything. I think once from there, you could probably go all the way to, the French-speaking Canadian provinces before you had a problem. I don't know. I get the suspicion a lot of this is simply misdirection. Something to get that'll make the press talk and make everybody. Well, he's doing other stuff. That's my guess. But yeah. So, I was just kind of curious about that one. Oh man, right now we're getting more news in a day than we used to get in a month. It's really dynamic at the moment. And you're going to have the hearings for Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. this week. It's hard to know what's going to happen there, but there's a possibility that some stuff might come out during the RFK Jr. thing that would cause and set the cat amongst the pigeons. So there you go. Sounds good, Jean-Francois. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Now, Eva and I are pretty comfortable here. We've got, our preps in, and we're in a small town that's, pretty, I don't know if self-sufficient is the word, but it should be pretty easy to maintain law and order and stuff like that. So I don't really think there's going to be much in the way of problems around us. Yeah, I think so too, honey bunny. Luckily, they're people I don't like, so that's okay. I think RFK needs to be very, very careful. If I was Trump, I'd be taking that protection that he canceled for what was it?
John Bolton got his canceled.
Yeah, Bolton and Pompeo. And get it to RFK. You know.
John Faber says, "Got your back there."
Yeah.
Not something.
So, I say it's very interesting stuff going on here, which has been distracting me a bit too. I just, it's an interesting time. So I'd like to spend time keeping an eye on things. Fauci, yeah. Yeah, that's good too, anybody. He makes plenty of money to get his own security. So, as I say, it's very interesting times. And we're also spending a fair amount of time kind of observing the people in general and how they're reacting to the situation and stuff. So that takes a bit of research and time just to get an idea of what's going on there. Hello, Lady Myra. How's it going? But anyhow, so hopefully we'll get dramatic regulatory relief. That seems to be one of the big linchpins of Trump's plan, is to cut regulations to free up economic growth. So that should work well for us, you know.
Yeah, good.
The Forest Service and such can at times be rather difficult, although they're worse in other areas.
Yeah, Patrick, innocent people don't need pardons.
That's kind of my thought.
Yeah, Shiny, I would agree. I like copper. I personally would love to run into a nice little polymetallic ore body that had a good amount of silver and copper in it. I mean, you know me, I don't like that weird yellow shit all that much anyway.
Well, copper has a much higher melting point than lead or zinc. So it'd be a little harder if that was it. Generally, your high silver content is going to be in lead, zinc, silver accompaniment.
Well, I certainly wouldn't mind having a silver mine. We all know this.
Yes, I know. So,
Honey Bunny says she's got tons of copper, but most of it's insulated. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, he thinks I'm crazy, but I like to strip insulation. I like to take apart motors and things. It's very nice.
Well, when it comes to cementing out silver from the silver nitrate solution, we have an old water line underneath the trailer. It was I don't know if it was fully half-inch or not, but it was the old water line, and it was copper.
Well, Jean-Francois, we're already talking about that on social media, trying to get people to understand that we need to get legislation passed to back up the important executive orders. I don't care about the piddly ones. I care about the big ones. Dave says, my neighbor finds copper nuggets all the time over in Anaconda. That I absolutely can believe. There's a lot of native copper around there. I would love to find some native copper. And yeah, Shiny, it is a great time to buy silver. If we weren't flat broke, I'd be buying silver. Don't remind me. Everybody else gets to back up the truck. Buy extra for me.
Yeah.
Wow. Dave says his biggest find was about the size of a softball. I want to go looking with that. I want to go looking for that. That's cool.
Yeah. I say during the winter, there's not a lot of work in the mining, small mining prospecting stuff. But I say if don't have anything else going by probably mid-March.
Yeah, the swamp will resist legislation, Jean-Francois. They can resist all they dang well please. We have a majority in both houses, and people are now very PO'd because they've been watching what the Republicans were doing. Now, this is where the goddess says, I told you so.
No, never.
This is where those stolen Senate seats are coming back to bite us in the butt. This is also where the stolen House seats are going to come back and bite us in the butt. And this is why everybody needs to be leaning on their Senate and their House.
Well, another thing that I find
Honey
concerning.
Bunny says putting the future mine shaft in the deep basement of her barn has the distinct advantage of not being exposed to rotten weather.
Yeah, it's also harder to see.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Ooh, what was that one? The Great Escape?
Yeah. Or the Shawshank Redemption.
Really?
Yeah, Rita Hayworth in the Shawshank Redemption. The guy dug his way out of prison over 10 years.
Well, you got to do something.
Yeah.
You know.
The hole was behind a poster on his wall.
Well, one thing that is concerning to me is there's a certain percentage, and it's hard to tell what it is, of call it the extreme left, that is upset. Many of them are terrified. They've
Jean-Francois says all he wants is a 4-year reprieve so he can get the friggin' out of this country. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
yeah. But some of the rhetoric is indicating that these people are really stressing out to the point of losing their minds. So whether that becomes a significant problem or not, I really have no idea. But I think we need to.
well,
The
Honey Bunny, Jean-Francois is in Canada. There are a few places better than Canada, I would think. Zimbabwe might be one at this point. South Africa's looking really sketchy now that they're doing land grabs.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, according to
Argentina, maybe, with Milei.
Shiny Rock says Portugal is accepting new citizens for $1. Yeah, well,
Why
Portugal.
is that? Is that because they've got a bad birth rate, so they're trying to stabilize the population? Can you amplify on that a little bit or not?
Jean-Francois says, read the novel This Perfect Day by Ira Levin. It's not sci-fi anymore, it's news. Yeah. South Africa is overrun with insane people, and now they're stealing the farmland again. Well, they're reacquiring the farm. They're reacquiring the farmland.
Yeah.
They claim that they're going to pay fair market value unless the person refuses to agree to fair market value, and then they'll just confiscate as a last resort. But of course,
so well in Zimbabwe.
The social media is very, very polarized around this because all of the black people in South Africa are claiming we're just taking back our indigenous lands.
Yeah.
And there aren't that many black farmers. And the white farmers who are losing their land are like, well, we're getting murdered for our land, so Shiny says no idea. Maybe they need new blood.
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
That they're just, because I know that most developed countries have a negative population growth exclusive of immigration. There's a few, I think Hungary, I know Russia, where they were offering financial incentives to have more children.
Jean-Francois says Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, some countries in Eastern Europe, decision rule, high freedom to keep guns.
Yeah. So.
Dave Vanderwall says Elon's not really right in the head and he left South Africa. It has to tell you something.
Yeah, there is that, but he was also looking for opportunities, and South Africa doesn't have much in the way of opportunities.
Well, his family left South Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, technically him and his mom.
Yeah. But, yeah, he's not right in the head. I will agree with that. He's a relatively stable genius.
Shiny says, shit, I'm moving to Tasmania. Have you seen the chunks of gold shipped out of those remote rivers? Yeah, that's true, Shiny.
Yeah, New Zealand has some good gold.
Beware of Tasmanian devils.
Well, that's because they're carrying some disease right now.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that they are dangerous.
Yeah,
Cassowaries are dangerous too.
the cassowaries are probably more dangerous than a Tasmanian devil because Tasmanian devil can only do so much damage. They're about this big.
Yeah.
You know, they're a little bit bigger than a vicious chihuahua.
Well, I'll tell you, you don't want to be in Tasmania or New Zealand if you're any way a 2A advocate at all, and you or Australia.
Yeah.
If you're any type of a 2A advocate at all, you don't want to land in any of those places. Besides the fact that their governments are totalitarian in other directions now. I have friends in Australia that I've been talking to this week. And essentially, yeah, the place is turned into a damn police state. Oh, and if you're a chick, don't bother moving to Australia or New Zealand because pretty much the high courts have now decided that women don't exist.
Oh, then I can be a chick, right?
Yeah.
So that applies to me.
Women do not exist in those places any longer. So, yeah.
Well, you mean the word woman basically means person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'll tell you, I wouldn't set foot in either one, and I'm not a lesbian.
Yep.
If I were a lesbian, I'd be leaving. Seriously.
I'm not disagreeing.
I mean, Sal is probably going to lose her case before the High Court in Australia.
I don't know.
It's looking bad right now. Exactly, Jean-Francois. The other thing, not just 2A, property rights.
Uh-huh.
And they've got property rights issues down there in Tasmania, New Zealand, Australia. They have property rights issues in a lot of places in Europe.
Yeah.
You know, so that there's two things that I look at personally as a determining factor if we were going to bug out of Montana, which we are not bugging out of Montana. That's 2A and property rights.
Yeah.
Right now, the United States is still pretty darn good with property rights. Right now, we're very good with 2A. Better than anybody else with 2A.
Yeah.
So, in those regards, this is still the best place. Shiny? Yeah, that's an old joke. And by the way, just to let you know, that joke has become offensive on a whole lot of parts of the internet because of the crap we're going through with these dudes in dresses. Speaking of which, there's one up for an Academy Award for Best Actress.
Well, there's also just an insane music.
G-Bro says, South Bend, Indiana here. I have family in Alberton on the Clark Fork. Beautiful country. Yeah.
Yep.
Indiana is some nice looking country
Clark
out
Fork
there.
is up by Missoula. You know? No, the western Montana is a beautiful state. It's a target-rich environment for precious
Shiny
metals.
says, Keith, all jokes aside, why is Green Schist and Gold Association Platinum Group?
I'm not sure.
Boss Recreational Mine is here too.
Hey, boss, how's it going?
No, we are now to the point where it's less than zero tolerance when it comes to the dudes in dresses stuff.
Yeah.
And men joking about being lesbians.
Yeah, it's pretty serious when you can't joke anymore, but I can understand why.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's a hard line now.
Yeah.
Brian says hi all, and Shiny said no.
Yep. So.
Spell it wrong. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's just, it's a very weird situation there, but it is waking a lot of people in the middle up to the.
Brian says the ping pong balls worked great. And
Okay.
John says, doing research on precipitating silver from resin you suggested, and the information is vague as I would prefer not losing resin to ash. Electro-winning solution mixture to this end? Any links you can recommend?
Okay.
Well, we don't precipitate silver from resin.
Yeah, we extract it and then electroplate it.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure what the best for silver would be. I presume you're using an Eco Goldex solution.
And Shiny wants to know green chlorotic schists and gold. Why, from a geology perspective?
I do not know.
No clue, Shaggy. We can try to Shiny. No clue, Shiny. We can try to find out.
Yeah, as I said, I'm a miner as opposed to a geologist, but
Well, Jean-Francois, if that's what you're looking for, wild spaces, good game for hunting, and temperature of Virginia or North Carolina, I'd move to Appalachia.
yeah.
Move to
So
the Appalachians.
let me finish the question for getting the gold out of the resin.
Silver.
We were using.
And yes, John says he meant gold, and yes, Eagle Goldex.
Okay, so H2SO4 pH 1, which is what it was like 300 milliliters of battery acid per. Just a second.
Hold on a second, he's looking it up.
Let me.
Paul Conroy says, good evening all, and yeah, those are some nice numbers on the board. And Shiny, no, really cannot give you any geology information on it because we have not looked it up. But I can see if we can find anything about it. And hi, Paul. Yes, these are some very good numbers on the board. John, we're looking up the figures for you for the Eco Goldex right now. Basically, once we have the resin loaded, we strip the resin using a stripping solution that is made of sulfuric acid and thiourea. Hi, Alex Caring. Yeah, chloridization helps gold drop out of solution when it gets crystallized out of a fluidic state. Per ton what here? Per ton to what gold? These figures here? Paul, the figures on the board here are for an ounce. Those are the current metals prices. Hi, Alex. Those are current metal prices. Gold's currently $27.45. Silver is currently $30.14. Platinum and palladium. So that's what those are. Shiny says the gold's in the schists in a brecciated zone between the host rock and the quartz at a 70-degree dip on the hanging wall. Yeah, the numbers on the board are the current metals prices per ounce. So yeah, that's those numbers right there. We were just discussing gold and silver prices earlier. Hi, Dan. Good evening. Shaggy, if it's locked in the green schist, I suggest you crush it and try to get it out of the green schist. I don't know why we don't have for you a direct geology reason why it is the green schist. It just is. Okay? Why it is not as important as how high the correlation is, and now you know really good stuff. Because if you know that all of your gold is in that green schist, and it is always consistently in that particular rock, then you've got a sweet situation because you know exactly what to look for. John says he was thinking to use 316 stainless for anodes and titanium for the cathode.
No.
No.
The reason is very simple.
Yeah.
I'll get to that in a second.
Right now he's going to be back here.
Okay. Put it on the board.
Yeah, I would love to.
Okay.
We're going to put the board up so he won't be able to see your chats right now for a minute. The rest of the schist is mica schist and usually black, but this is a rare ore deposit.
3 gallons. Thiourea, I think it was like 1,200 grams.
Yeah.
And I believe The sulfuric acid was about 300 mils.
Yeah, 300 mil.
300 to 400 mils. We wanted a pH 1 at, what was it, 60 C?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we make a stripping solution. I believe this is the formula, but I couldn't get to wherever it's written down right now. It's kind of hard to get to. This is pretty close. We would start with 3 gallons of water. That's the system was designed for that. About 1,200 grams of thiourea. Might have been 1,000, but I'm not sure. Somewhere around 1,000 to 1,200 grams. And sulfuric acid to a pH of 1. Now this is battery acid that we were using because it's the cheapest way to get it.
Shiny, by the way, says the quartz dike is 3 miles long and who knows how much gold's in it.
Yeah. So we use battery acid for the sulfuric simply because that's the cheapest way to get sulfuric acid. If you buy chemical grade sulfuric acid, you're going to pay several times for the amount of actual active acid. So battery acid, thiourea, water, that's it. And then you heat it. We were running at 60 degrees centigrade. Okay? It really, when does it start stripping? At about 40, 45 centigrade?
It starts stripping at 40.
Yeah,
40 to 45 when it's fully loaded.
it really doesn't start kicking in till it's like 40 to 45 degrees centigrade. And the pH will change with the temperature. To get a pH of 1 at 60 degrees, it was like, what was it? pH of 1.3 or 1.5
I've had pHs as high as 2.5, dude.
at room temperature that made it to pH 1 without having to add any acid. I think it's around pH 1.5, 1.7 at room temperature will get you a pH 1 at 60 degrees. And that will dissolve the gold off of the resin. What about Ruto from Ace? I have no idea if that's thiourea or not. I do not believe so. Okay. I have no idea on that. Let's see. You can always make the sulfuric stronger by distilling. pH of 1 is not, as I say, it's like 10% battery acid. I mean, in terms of you start with battery acid and dilute it 10 to 1. So it's really pretty mild. It also means I really don't even use gloves because, again, you can get battery acid on you and it doesn't hurt you. You know, and not if you wash it off in a reasonable period of time. But so that's the stripping solution. From there, we put it into electrolytic cell. Now, the reason you do not use a stainless steel anode is very simple. You're going to plate, I'm not sure if it's nickel or chromium or both or whatever, but the problem is that in the plated deposits on the cathode, you wind up with stuff that doesn't like to dissolve and doesn't like to melt and doesn't like to smelt out during that. It contaminates your gold with, as I say, it's either nickel or chromium or both. Don't know. I use regular carbon steel anodes. Yes, they corrode. They eventually go bye-bye. By the time I've taken a piece of 2-inch by 1/8-inch strap and corroded it away, I've recovered ounces of gold. Basically at that point, probably a couple ounces of gold, and sacrificed, let's say, like a 6-inch strip of 2" by 1/8" carbon steel. Really cheap. And then what it's doing is it's plating iron onto the deposits. Those deposits will actually fall off of the cathode to a great extent. If we got a good amount of gold in the resin, by the time we're done stripping, there's a lot more gold laying at the bottom of the cell than is sitting on the cathode. Okay. The current flowing through the electrolytic cell is proportional to the amount of plating that's going on. Okay. Nails or rebar. I just use 2" by 1/8" strap. I took a circular saw and notched some plastic so I could slide them in and put them in the thing. And I do that. It's really cheap. It's easy to get a hold of. You know, you can get it any steel supply store. It's really, really cheap. And it gives me good surface area. It's easy to hook up an electrode to and stuff. So that's what I use. As a matter, let me go get one. If you hold on a second, I can go get the electrolytic cell.
Don't forget, you gotta put it back on you and not on the whiteboard. Yeah. Why said, I'll be right there. Hold on, folks. I'm coming. Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Billy Ingram's here.
Yeah. This is the electrolytic cell itself. That's your outflow, that little hole right there. And I actually took a piece of plastic cutting board, made some slots in it. You know, one piece on this side, one piece on this side.
Shane says nailed or rebar teeth.
I'm already dealing with that.
Okay.
And then the 2" strap goes between them, and it's easy for me to, you know, just take alligator clips and grip those.
This says if you want an anode that will last, we might try MMO and or lead oxide.
Could be. Let's say I've got carbon. Those seem to have a lot of resistance and such. But I will run a single anode for 10 strips before it gets thin enough that I have to replace it. And that costs about, I don't know, 50 cents, you know? So
John Faber says cathode material. Thought about using carbon rods as well. We use the regular stuff.
For the cathode, stainless steel works fine. The plated materials rarely plate on there solidly. They scrape off pretty easily. And so we do use the stainless cathode. But just use a carbon steel sacrificial anode, but it takes a long time to use it up. Okay, now I'm going to put this back and wash my hands here.
He'll be right back, guys.
By the way, here is a resin cartridge. This one has 1/3 of a kilogram, 333 grams of resin in it. And it comes from the factory just slightly off-white. And that's from loading. And it's hard to tell how much this cartridge has, but we have obtained as much as 4 grams per cartridge from this stuff here. So that's what one of our cartridges looks like.
Jeff Bybee says, Shiny, I think the schist is connected to the meta greenstone belts like in South Pass, Wyoming. Brian says expected recovery 4 grams on whatever he's doing.
Okay. So
Shane is asking Shiny if he's run into him before prospecting out there or mining.
yeah. Yeah, I say that's 4 grams per cartridge. We've got typically 4 cartridges in circuit with the first, the one that gets the solution first getting loaded to the most, and then you advance them as time goes on. So, I say for a full kilogram of resin, we get up to about 12 grams of gold. Theoretically, if there wasn't other stuff loading that resin, you should be able to get a lot more than that. Yeah, that sounds about right, Brian. You probably got a lot of iron in there too. So, I say that's our experience. The amount of loading on the resin seems to be proportional to the concentration in solution to some extent. So I would expect that if you had a higher concentration in solution, that you would wind up with a much higher loading factor too, which would make life much more efficient. Yes, that is the that's the process I'm talking. In the milling, it's called stripping carbon or stripping resin, whichever. But yeah, it's stripping, getting the adsorbed ions off, and then we electroplate from that. Yes, what we do is those cartridges fit in a cartridge holder. I mean, they're designed to go under a sink or whatever for the loading. And then we take them out. We put them in a special situation where I've got it, but I circulate solution through those cartridges, and that's where we've got 60 degrees centigrade, pH 1 with sulfuric acid. What would that be? 3 gallons is call it 27 pounds. Call it 12 kilograms. So about 10% thiourea. And we consume about 100 grams of thiourea for every cartridge we strip. Or every cartridge or every 3? I think it was every cartridge, wasn't it?
About 3.
3? Okay.
Every group of cartridges.
Every group of cartridges?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, see, to use the resin, you don't need to change the pH at all. I say you just run the solution through the resin, and the gold sticks to the resin. Your solution's ready to go get more gold out of the ore. that's why you do that, because you're not constantly throwing away chemicals and making stuff and things. You're just getting what you want out of the solution, sending it right back to work. Replenish it a little bit. We were using what, about 3 or 4 pounds of Eco Goldex per batch, actual consumption. You know, it takes over twice that to make a batch from nothing, you know, from plain water. Yeah, for using zinc, different process. Yeah. What are the gases involved? Can you do that in your garage? Yeah, a little bit of, I think it's probably hydrogen sulfide. Very low concentrations.
It does not stink very badly at all, if that's what you're asking.
I mean, Eva was typically sitting in the lab next to it with no real ventilation to speak of. Oh, you're most welcome, John. But that, I mean, we initially were hoping we could use direct electrowinning. In other words, just run the solution, the leach solution, through an electrolytic cell. That didn't work too well. So then we got to go to a concentration purification step. That's what the resin's all about. Then we had to figure out how to strip the resin. That wasn't going too easily at first either. You know? Okay, Billy, thank you. Yeah, the problem in Montana is that the ferrocyanide complex has the CN complex as part of it, and the Department of Environmental Quality or whatever has said that essentially ferrocyanide is a cyanide. Therefore, it is regulated essentially the same as, say, sodium cyanide, even though it's vastly less toxic. But if it's got that carbon triple bonded to a nitrogen, they figure that's a cyanide. So, you have to deal with that. So, the other regulatory thing is that in Montana, cyanide is banned for new open pit operations. It is not banned for new underground operations. So, yeah, you have to look at your own individual regulatory environment. And it's, when I was in Arizona, the guy I was talking to there was saying, yeah, one of the easiest ways to get things approved is if you can tank leach. Tanks with secondary containment is so safe that it's pretty easy to get permitted. Thank you, Billy. Let's see. I know people say to drop the pH before zinc, but I run the leach through zinc strips in a filter without dropping it. Don't know how I recovered it, but it worked.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can work.
I've known other operations that were using a leach solution that they just ran through zinc, and as far as I know, they weren't doing anything special to it, and then they were reusing that solution to leach more ore. In that case, it was South America, and they were vat leaching. Now, the difference between a vat leach and a tank leach is that in a vat leach, you have a container, but you're not agitating it. You slurry your material and you send it in there, and it just sits and just kind of percolates through. So it's kind of like pad leaching, except in a container. But it is more effective than a leach pad, but it is not as effective as an agitation tank. It's a lot lower technology, so it's used a lot in low-tech environments, like back around, the 1900s and stuff. It was fairly common. If you go to places like Africa and South America, now you also see it in small operations because it's really cheap to do and it's relatively simple. Yeah, let's see what the difference is, Brian. It would be interesting to see if in the next batch you do, if you split the solution into 2 equal portions and then adjust the pH on one and don't adjust the pH on the other, and then contact them with zinc and see what the difference is. Another criterion that is important to some people, not others, is how much gold do you get out of the solution? If you're going to recycle it back into circuit and you only get 90% of the gold out of the solution, not a problem. It's just going back into circuit, coming back out again. If, on the other hand, you're going to dispose of the solution, if it's a one-time use thing, then it's important to get as much as you can. So, always, when possible, test every variable independently. And as I say, in your case, Brian, it would be easy to do. Just split it, do it 2 ways. Make sure you measure the same amount of zinc and use the same containers and the same flow rates and everything else. And then, see what happens. It's entirely possible that you're going to get pretty darn good recoveries without adjusting the pH, and then you can reuse that solution without a problem.
Oh yeah, he's worked with actual cyanide before, Billy.
Yeah, I don't know if the ferrocyanide is the same issue, but yes, below pH 9, it's unstable. Below pH 8, yeah. If that was a cyanide solution, as opposed to a ferrocyanide solution, it would be effervescing. Yes, we did. In the Eco Goldex solution, we used something called KD3. And pretty sure I can find a spot plate here. Let me take a look.
Hold on a second. We're looking for the, he's looking for things. He is looking for things right now. Brian says his big mistake was using lime to keep up the pH during leaching. Brian, why was that a mistake? We actually, it depends on your ore. We found that for us, the Eco Goldex works best between about 10.5 pH and an 11.5 pH. Brian says anyone wants some scale.
Yeah, it does tend to scale.
Billy says, Dan Garland, are you talking about Eco Goldex? I can answer, but I need specifics.
Now, this is a spot plate. Now, in each one of those wells, we'll put 1/2 of milliliter of filtered or centrifuge leach solution. We usually use a centrifuge. You want a clear solution, and then put in 1 drop of KD3, which was originally designed for a testing method, a wet chemistry assay sort of thing. And from what I understand, one of the major ingredients is hydrazine sulfate, and it will precipitate the gold out of solution, and you will get a color in the well, and you can effectively test for gold down to a couple parts per million. Okay, so that worked out. I found my electrolytic cell too. See, here's the electrolytic cell. Here's the side plates. Here's the cathode. And here's the anode. As you see, it's just a piece of steel strap. And just put them in the slots. Like this. Come on. Like that. Drop it in. Put the tube that is circulating the solution between the two. Hook up the positive here, the negative here, and that overflows the solution out of it. And the way I've got it set up, it flows back into the reservoir where the heater heats it, and then it gets sucked back up through the cartridge with a peristaltic pump. You know? So, that is all. This cell will recover quite a lot. I don't know what's, the most we got was like, what, 6 or 7 grams?
Yeah, I believe so.
In a batch, but I mean it's easy to recover that much, no problem at all. But yeah, we can directly test our solutions, and I think Tricky Dicky was saying that you just take your Eco Goldex solution. Didn't he say just a couple grains of hydrazine sulfate, I think it was.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think he was using just solid hydrazine sulfate. Just drop a couple grains in there. He said it worked fine too. But having a very inexpensive direct test is really, really helpful. Okay? You have to kind of let it dry after you put the solution in it. You let it dry. You can force dry it by putting a blow dryer or something around it. We're not usually a big hurry, so we put the stuff in one day and then come back the next day and look at it and say, okay, that's what it was. But yeah, the test costs about $0.01 each. And if you're in a hurry and you use a blow dryer, you can get it done in less than 30 minutes. And sensitivity, minimum detection limit is probably about 2 parts per million. And you can probably estimate it from looking at the color to about a plus or minus 10%, you know? So, yeah, we do have a direct, cheap method of testing it. What is CN? That is cyanide. Carbon triple bonded to a nitrogen with a single negative charge. That is cyanide. If you have cyanide gas, that is hydrogen cyanide. If you have the usual cyanide solid that they use in processing, it is sodium cyanide. Sodium cyanide is unstable at neutral pH. To really stabilize it, you need to get up around pH of 9.5 or 10 at a minimum. If you go below that, it starts breaking down into higher
Ferrocyanides are
cyanide.
stable at lower pHs, so more safety margin. It gives people false safety. There's nothing eco about it. Less deadly cyanide salts is the accurate description. Yeah.
I would tend to agree with that, although I don't know for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's not non-toxic. Salt is not non-toxic. Get enough of it, it will kill you. You know? Nothing is non-toxic. There's just relatively low toxicity to where once you get down to where like it's no worse than window cleaner,
Well,
you're probably in pretty good
as
shape.
you know, the absolute lowest I let our Eco Gold X solution go is 9.5 pH, and it's usually, 10.5 pH.
No, we let it go down to 10. You know?
Yeah, the lowest it ever goes for me is 10, and my preferred, we get the best results with it at 10.5. In the leach pad and in the pond, it's usually hovering around 11. Red Wing's here. Hiya, Red Wing.
Hi, Red Wing. But anyhow, so yes, that's what we do to test our solution. And to get an idea, we had some solution that had a known concentration of about 30 parts per million. And so we used different dilutions of that on another spot plate where we put them in the wells, let them dry out, mark it. You can mark this with a regular marker.
Sharpie.
Just fine. See? So you write down your sample number and stuff, do your thing, and then when you're done, wash it off, and the Sharpie disappears too. So they work very, very well. And again, you don't have high precision. You're not going to see if you got 3.8 parts per million. But you can say, it's between 3 and 4. That sort of thing. Where does one find KD3? Nowadays, nowhere. Okay, this is why I brought up the hydrazine sulfate. The people who made it, one guy died. The other guy was selling off the stock. So we got, what are those, pint bottles?
I think so.
I think pint bottle. By the way, the bottles they come in do not last forever, so make sure you transfer it to glass. But anyhow, we're only using 1 drop
Yeah, literally.
per test. So we got years of supply there, assuming it's shelf stable. So
I haven't seen any indicator that it's not.
yeah, it seems to work
Other
fine.
than the fact it ate the bottle, but that doesn't mean it's not shelf stable.
Glycine pregnant solution can it be electrolyzed? You mean direct electrowinning?
We don't know yet.
I would be skeptical for the simple reason that you're not going to get much conductivity. Now, if your oxidizing agent was in sufficient concentration, you might be able to get decent current flow. And if you have a high concentration of precious metals in solution, it might be a reasonable solution to the problem. You also might deliberately add something, depending upon what pH you want to work at. And it's been a while since I think, let's suppose that you can take it to a significant pH one way or the other. You could use like a sulfuric acid or a hydrochloric acid on one side of the equation, or you could use sodium hydroxide like on the other side to get your thing. You could even add potentially just salt, some kind of ionic material in there. If you put salt, you're not going to change your pH worth a darn, but you can really jump up your conductivity. So there are ways you can play that game. Again, all these games become much more reasonable the more gold you've got in terms of concentration, because now you can afford to be a little more persnickety and a little more expensive on the solution. When you're using tons of solution to get grams of gold, You have to be pretty careful to keep it thing. By the way, Billy, I'm really nice. It's really nice to see someone here who's really got more knowledge than I am about this. I use Stannis test on Eco Gold X.
Treat with hypochlorite that converts lower the pH to about 9.
We used Stannis chloride on the Eco Gold X at one time, and it worked, but the KD3 worked better. So that's why I use it. But yeah, I believe we did use the Stannis chloride also.
Jean-Francois, I am wary of anything that involves temperature with this crap, because we already discovered we had volatile gold in the resin, and I don't know whether it was volatile because of something that happened to it in the resin or because of something in the Eco Gold X.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure somewhere around there we ended up with some gold chlorides, and in the presence of iron,
we have no reason to believe it's gold chloride, but it was volatile. We dried at different temperatures and then fluxed and smelted. And we were also did some testing with X-ray fluorescence. And believe it or not, compared to the result we got at room temperature drying, even at only 140 degrees, which was one of these food dryers, we got like 30 to 40% losses. Okay? When we took it up to putting it in the oven at 400 degrees, it was over 50% of the gold disappeared. Okay? So I would be very hesitant to use that as, because that was our third idea. I mean, first idea was direct electrowinning. That didn't work. So, and then I guess it was second idea. Second idea was to put it on resin and then smelt the resin. Because again, if you got, theoretically, you should be able to load, several grams per kilogram. I mean, up to 100 grams per kilogram theoretically. But let's say it's only, because you're getting a bunch of other stuff, 10 grams per kilogram. Well, 10 grams, third of an ounce, that's, $800 at the time. Yeah. The idea was we would take the resin and ash it and smelt it and blah, blah, blah.
And I will say that
losses were horrible.
For anybody curious, I kept the linings from the kiln that broke off when we were doing this. I have that stuff stored because I don't necessarily trust. Yeah. That's kind of what I wonder about Jeff, and I'll tell you right now, he can tell you, even though everybody freaking ignores me, he can tell you. I told him from the get-go that I did not want to be drying that stuff under heat. I was very, very leery about that. And I also told him from the get-go that I wanted a scrubber on my dang furnace.
That's easy enough to do if you got $1 million to play with, okay? When you're scrounging a lot, you can't just put scrubbers here and this there and that there. You can't spend 3 weeks at $1,000 to do something.
If I had my way, everything.
Well, yeah, if we had that kind of money, we wouldn't need to go for gold, because to build the lab, you need hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I say, we don't know for sure exactly what. I tried to get the people over at Montana Tech interested in it, because I mentioned to the PhD that we'd had significant gold losses. And PhD said, I don't think so.
She's a chick, by the way. This explains everything.
Yeah. But anyhow, they said, I don't think that makes any sense. Then Chris Georgie sent me a paper by the U.S., I think it was Bureau of Mines, okay, where they had done testing with artificial gold ores, where they took silica sand and hit it with gold chloride. So they had a very, very simple chemistry there. And they were getting 5% losses at, I 250 degrees or something
when
like
they
that.
went up to 4.
But when they added a little bit of iron pyrite, of course, you never run into iron pyrite in the wild, right? They got 90% volatilization. And the reason they did, and they could know that because they were actually scrubbing and such. Okay? And so, side, understand risks. Okay. So you might be creating hydrogen cyanide gas, huh, Billy? But anyhow, and she basically said, no, can't happen. Because I thought, hey, here's a phenomenon that I've never heard about before. You know, people are ashing resins and things like that, and yet I haven't heard of volatilization losses. So it may be the complex you get with EcoGold-X. There may be cyanide complex. There may be thiocomplex. That may be what's going on, Billy, is you may have some gold cyanide and some gold thio complex. And one of them is volatile and the other isn't. And so even though perhaps ashing resin from a gold cyanide circuit isn't a problem, an EcoGold-X could be, and
yes, Patrick, they are full of schist.
Yeah, but anyhow, that was something I thought, well, if you have a new phenomenon observed on a new product that can cause substantial losses, as in 50% of the gold go bye-bye, that's pretty significant. That's something you could write a paper on and maybe, get some recognition. It'd be a good thing. It should be very simple to test. Shouldn't be a problem for those people. They got all the equipment and stuff. It would be easy. But no, it's impossible. I don't want to talk about it, even though, again, I sent her that paper from Chris that basically said, oh yeah, gold can go bye-bye. Pretty simple. I mean, gold chloride's a fairly simple complex, and I think it was 250 degrees. I don't know if you remember, Chris, but I think it was at like 250 degrees. It was about 5% losses just with the gold chloride and about 90% losses if there was some
I remember
sulfide there.
I know it was below 400 because I commented a pizza oven.
Yeah.
I said basically it's
You could do that in a pizza oven. Exactly. It was not ridiculous temperatures. It was stuff that you can reach in your house. So, I wasn't really impressed. She's basically saying you don't know what you're observing. Well, guess what? I'm not an idiot. I think it was somewhere in the 250 to 350 degree range, Chris. But it was something that's easy to achieve in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But
which is about the time I said, yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
I explained to her, we've done these tests, and we can see clear differences that correlate with the temperature of the drying.
Yeah, Jeff, we're talking household temperatures.
Yeah. Yeah, we're talking Fahrenheit, Jeff.
Brian, the way I present it, the way we've prevented it since is I stopped ashing resin at all, okay? I did discover that with our particular ores, and it might be the ore that caused it in our case.
It might be some.
Because it's a high iron mine. With that particular ore, I do not ash resin now unless I absolutely freaking have to. The gold doesn't volatilize as long as it doesn't get hot.
Well, if we dried the resin at room temperature, we'd call that baseline and, call that zero loss. Can't tell because we can't do any better than that. But it did seem to match the XRF pretty well. Dry it at, room temperature only, and that seemed to work okay. But
and I'm also extremely careful when I ash it now.
yeah, we do that basically if we're testing what we think the loading factor is, because we don't have an XRF. So if we were testing a sample to see how much gold we think is in there, for example, like when we were doing stripping, and are we really stripping all the gold, or is some getting left, and this and that and the other, we would do that.
I don't think we did a standalone series of tests on top of the hill.
No,
because we're getting so free mill.
Yeah. Now, this is why it's my opinion, and it's a speculative opinion, that you have two complexes, at least two gold complexes that are generated with the EcoGoldX. The gold cyanide is not reported anywhere to be very volatile, but something is. That's why I'm thinking, they throw a lot of stuff in that EcoGoldX, so you might be making more than one complex. Possibly, Jean-Francois, but you don't get 100% volatilization. Is using what acid? Kerros acid. Okay. Well, you know a lot more than I do, Billy. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it.
With a little potassium nitrate. I love potassium nitrate. Excellent stuff.
Yes, that would be gold-loaded resin. Then Eva would...
I only do that for testing purposes now.
Yeah.
Because at that point, you need to very, very, very carefully ash it down to a point where you can put it in a crucible and smelt it. You don't want to just put dried resin.
You don't just smelt it. We use a litharge flux.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I say, it's possible, Brian. I really don't know. Again, the guy we work for is not interested in spending tens of thousands of dollars to figure out everything. He just wants to make money. So we don't have the ability to just answer questions all over the place, It would be fun. It would also be nice if I was a chemist. I'm a miner, not a chemist. I've had a lot of help from Chris and a few other people.
Yeah, you got amines, you got different, yep.
See, and that's what I'm thinking, that Chris is correct to say. You don't just have gold cyanide complex there. You've got gold something else complex too. And that's what we're losing from volatilization. So that was that's why I was trying to get, Montana Tech interested, because that's exactly the sort of thing that, again, you could have a graduate student do that for a thesis or something, come up with brand new knowledge that has real application in the real world, and, investigate this. It should be fairly straightforward investigation. And then it'd be like, I'm the guy that was the first one to characterize the losses of gold from EcoGoldX when you're drying resins at different temperatures. It would be great, I would think.
Patrick says, I'm not a chemist, but I'm cute and floofy, and that counts.
Probably.
Billy says, the proof's in the color. The electrolysis of EcoGoldX gives black nanogold. Heating carbon breaks it into chunks with gold attached.
I really don't know. But I say, that's the sort of thing that they're equipped to research. They've got the technology. They theoretically got the smarts and stuff. And so I was extremely disappointed that the person in charge basically said, that can't happen, I don't care.
The chick in charge.
I'm trying not to be sexist, racist, homophobic, and stuff like that.
Oh, go ahead. I will say it. I'm a chick. They can't say I am.
there's lots of possibilities, Jean-Francois. You know, if you had a furnace that had pretty much impermeable sides, and you heated it and retorted it, basically, scrubbed it, and then, smelted your resin, you should be able to do that.
If Bobby says floopy, is that like the Latino comic fluffy?
Yep. The other theoretical thing is, if you strip the resin, in theory, you should be able to regenerate the resin and reuse the resin.
In theory.
So far, we haven't found a good way of regenerating the resin. Okay.
Paul says, why not bring this all back up to Eco Gold XX and have them go after a possible solution to the problem?
Well,
they're over in China somewhere, and their salespeople over here don't know crap about anything. They're salespeople.
Yeah, I mean, the guy we deal with is a nice guy, John Guo or whatever. He's a nice guy. He's not a chemist. He's not a technical expert.
And the Chinese have no interest whatsoever in fixing it.
As I say, besides, why should I, have them get more information that then they can use against me, so to speak?
And that's the other thing, Paul, is these guys keep everything under an NDA. The only reason we've gotten as far as we have is because we have been crowdsourcing the problem.
No, actually, it's not an NDA. They have the patent on file. I think it was Tricky Dicky gave it to us. But it's like, you take varying combinations of these 6 chemicals, put them under such and such a temperature, sinter them together, and then crush them apart. And it will make stuff that we haven't figured out, so they say.
Yeah,
but anyhow,
exactly. And they're working with the big guys, and you can bet if the big guys are running into this problem with their ore.
I don't know if Eco Goldex is working with the big guys. I believe that was the other...
Shen, which...
I don't know. Jin Chan might be. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, the problem is, a lot of times with these people, if you bring them a problem, they'll just stick it under an NDA and they won't tell anybody when they find an answer.
Yeah, if they find a way to fix it, it's like, okay, now you got to buy the solution from them.
Yeah, exactly.
I forget what that company was that had the it was a thiosulfate leach for gold.
Yeah.
And that was the ones with the NDAs.
Yep.
That was, I forget what the name was. It was an Australian company.
Jean-Francois says John Go's a geologist. He did his PhD at U of Quebec. Well, yeah,
okay.
He may be a geologist, but that doesn't mean he understands the chemistry behind this stuff any more than anybody else does.
Yeah, I mean, he knows the plug
and
play stuff.
The guys that are selling this stuff have actually told people, didn't they tell somebody that it worked? We saw some video that they had that said, oh, if you do this, it'll work exactly the same way for process A and process B, which are 2 entirely different processes.
They said basically you can just take a cyanide circuit and replace it with the Eco Goldex. Just leave everything else the same, but just replace your cyanide, your sodium cyanide with Eco Goldex, basically. Now, right away, that makes me extremely suspicious because it's very unusual to be able to replace one chemical with another significantly different chemical.
Unless they're the same chemical.
Perfectly the same.
And unless, of course, they are exactly the same chemical and people are just not telling you.
Yeah. I say, but that's the sort of thing. I say, I like John. But he doesn't seem to have the technical expertise to be really well grounded in the theory. For example, we get the instructions to keep it between 11 and 11.5 pH. Okay? Chico Tuni? What?
Chico Tuni is what, please? I
have no idea.
It's a college campus of the University of Quebec.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyhow, it's a town or something.
Yeah, it's a place where the University of Quebec is.
I say. Now, again, I'm always skeptical of it works just the same on everything. Yeah, I don't believe so. Okay? Because there's, especially with rocks, there's all kinds of chemistry involved here. And so we tried it at the 11 to 11.5 and it seemed to work. Okay, we're using bottle roll tests. Then using the same sample at a pH of 10 to 10.5, it dissolved faster. Okay? So it's like, okay, we'll worry about that then. But, I say, the guy I work for, he's not interested in spending a lot of money just learning things. He just wants to have a producing gold mine, So, again, when somebody says works the same under all conditions, it's like, yeah, sure. And so I would double checking, and no, it doesn't work the same under all conditions. I'm sure John has learned a lot in the last 5 years too. He's probably much better than he was. But, this sort of thing is, you got a new product. It does things in an unusual, somewhat different manner. Say, this is why I was like, hey, Mrs. PhD, could you, this might be useful for your resume to have somebody figure this one out here, And she didn't even say not really interested. She basically said, it's impossible, don't bother me.
She literally, when confronted with the paper by the Bureau of Mines, was like,
well,
no.
That wasn't what she said was impossible. What I said to her, she said, that's impossible. And I said, well, here's a paper from the Bureau of Mines that explains that it is possible. Didn't care. You take care, Jean-Francois. Thank you.
Well, that's just what you can expect from a chick anyway.
23?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just what you can expect from chicks anyway.
Yeah, I say.
This is why DEI has to die.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm very PO'd at Costco.
Hey, Paul.
Okay.
So, my gut's telling me that it's more complicated than the ferrocyanide is making a cyanide complex. There's more to it than that. Don't know what, don't know how.
Jeff Bybee says, Keith, since Montana decided gold X is cyanide, has that hurt your work?
I haven't really asked them a whole lot of questions about that. We do it in a very small test sort of thing. It's a laboratory scale. So, yeah. As I say, this is one of the things that, you do what you got to do sometimes, but if we were to make a reasonable sized mill or something like that, we would have to permit it, and we have to permit it under the regulations that we have. This is one reason why the glycine might be highly useful. I don't know. And so that's it. But, you might have to go to a thiourea, not thiourea,
thiosulfide.
You can use thiourea too to dissolve gold.
Yeah. Thiosulfide will do it.
Yeah. But thiosulfate is one thing, thiourea is another. There's lots of different things, and sometimes it has to do with the rock. If you've got an acidic rock, it's going to be held.
And I still want to check out the fermented pea.
Yeah.
Still got that on my list. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Say thiourea. This is why I think the thiosulfate and thiourea, it's probably making a gold sulfur complex.
Well, what I'm still curious about is every phase of the stripping circuit, because we are now piling up buckets of what we think is used / spoiled stripping solution.
Not solution. Well, we do have some
Yes.
stripping solution too.
Yes. And I want to know whether we can get the thio back out of that.
There comes.
But it makes all kinds of, it crystallizes and turns into flakes in there, and I wonder
There's
if you
all
can
kinds
turn
of
it
other stuff in there too.
Yeah, I know.
I'll say.
But I want to find out what's actually in there.
Again, yeah, well, okay, all you do is take it to a lab, spend $500. It's easy
Billy-
to do with money.
Billy says this, I have not tried this, Keith, but in Africa they heat their carbon to 150 degrees to open the pores, and then they leach the gold from the resin carbon using the preferred chemical process.
Is this already activated carbon, or are they just activating the carbon? Is a question. Because a lot of places, the big mines will actually regenerate the carbon by putting them in pressurized steam. That's basically how they activate the carbon in the first place, I believe, to open the pores.
Yeah, what's the difference between activated charcoal and standard charcoal anyway?
Well, first of all, the kind of charcoal they use for mining is generally coconut shell charcoal because it's very tough. It doesn't grind up real easy because the ground up carbon you can't recover, you can't deal with, and it's just got gold in it that goes bye-bye. But by activated, that you're exposing it to pressurized steam at a temperature. I'm not sure exactly what the temperature is. It's in the hundreds of degrees. But that opens up the pores.
Huh.
And turns it into something that really wants to grab stuff. So, yeah.
I've often wondered how zeolite would work for grabbing things, because zeolite is...
It depends on what you're trying to grab, I'm sure. I don't know how easy it is to stabilize the zeolite in something that you can use and how expensive it is. A lot of these things are like, yeah, you can do it 12 different ways. This one's 10 times cheaper than anything else. What would you do?
Oh, what is the word for that?
What?
When you've got something that has pores of a certain size that will only grab things of this.
I believe it's called adsorption, but yeah, it's you have active sites that are pretty selective. But yeah, I say this stuff gets pretty complicated, and it's not so complicated that a good chemist with a good lab and a reasonable budget can't figure it out pretty darn well. But I say that's why I wanted to get Montana Tech in, because then he says molecular sieves, because I figured, hey, then I could find out what's actually going on. Because again, I don't think it would be terribly difficult to do if you had a good chemist and a good analytical lab. I don't think it would be difficult. I don't have either. So it's just frustrating as heck. I say I was quite annoyed to be said it's impossible. Yeah, right.
For a scientist to say it's impossible is very troubling to begin with. I gotta go check on the file.
I can see saying, well, that seems unlikely. Why do you believe that? And I'm saying, well, when we're using the exact same resin, and the only difference in the process is the temperature at which it dries, and we get, a nice plot, like here's temperature, and here's gold recovered, and it goes, it's like, yeah, looks like temperature has something to do with it. Let's say, to be just, what do they call that? Just, yeah, right. What's that WCPL? Go away, kid, you bother me. It was annoying. But, I say, it seemed to me like the perfect thing for a research paper for someone to do, because then they could, for a relatively modest investment, discover a new phenomenon and be the first one to publish it. You know? And yeah, and it's surprising how many different things will involve gold, but it needs to be inexpensive, operate under a variety of conditions, and get you all the way to gold. You don't just need to dissolve it, then you need to recover it from the solution and turn it into gold. So let's say the cyanide is cheap, it works under a variety of conditions, and it's fairly simple to do. Are you going to expound on the possibility? Sure. Could be, Chris. That could be it entirely. Just have no idea. Okay, when it comes to the summer, first of all, we have top of the hill. We got some possibilities. We're going to try and do a lot of paperwork research this winter to see if we can find some more information up there, and determine whether there's some good possibilities of spending some more effort on. Some of that stuff up there is on patented ground, some of it is on unpatented ground, some of it is on patented ground that's not owned by my claim owner that I work for, but is owned by people that he gets along with. So there's all kinds of theoretical possibilities up there. There's also a lot of it's on Forest Service land, which would require permitting before we moved any equipment in or something. There's a couple of places there where I just love to do a little digging with some equipment, you know? And so there's that. There's a place where there's an old excavator that somebody was thinking of putting back in service for something else. It's like, well, if you do that, do we spend a day or so testing it on that hillside there where that old mine is? You know? And that's a possibility. We got a guy named Jeff Kablock who has a number of mines about 30 miles from here. He's been gone the last couple of years in Florida because he had some issues he had to deal with. He's supposed to be back up here this summer, and there's possibilities there. And again, we're also doing other research to see if we can't find something new that we haven't dealt with before. So that kind of gives, also I've got a contact who knows somebody who works for somebody who likes gold mining and wanted to talk to that couple up in Helena that was on Dave Turin's Backyard Gold. That's a possibility, you know. And there's some, you know, let's say, so there's lots of possibilities. Nothing is solid at this point except right now we need to do some research. That cartridge I showed you is fully loaded. I got 2 cartridges that are loaded. We need to strip those. I want to rebuild the little tabletop kiln and get it fully operational. We need to do some smelting stuff with that later. And so we got that to do. And I don't know of anything else in particular, but we're always up for something that pops its head up. And it's like, okay, that might be useful.
Darren points out, Orange Man is in now, so just bring the equipment up. Don't I wish?
Yeah, that may be pretty easy to do in 6 or 12 months. That is a distinct possibility that might change. We shall see.
Well, here I am saying drill, baby, drill everywhere, but he still hasn't said mine, baby,
Dig,
mine
baby,
everywhere. He hasn't said smelt, baby, smelt everywhere.
Yeah. So, again, there's a lot of possibilities. I know that Jeff said he had a dump that was running. The dump itself was running better than an ounce to the ton. and he showed me some assays to verify that. And he wanted to work that dump and stuff. So that's it. There's a lot of possibilities. We can scrape by using just my Social Security. It would be pretty darn tough. Right around here, there's lots of jobs wanting for people in various, just service industry, what, $16 an hour to flip burgers starting?
Yeah.
Or something. So we got ways we can do stuff. Give him our
He's talking to Honey Bunny there.
/K. Honey Bunny /K. I'm guessing the K is key. Okay.
Yeah, I should start putting our email down here all the time, too.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what we're talking about.
Just put my stuff. So anyhow, everything's very fluid, but that's not unusual for our life. We tend to kind of freeform things a lot. And so this is not terrifying. It would be nice to have a little firmer plan, but I think we'll have another interesting summer with lots of interesting things to do, and we'll make some interesting videos on these things.
Well, I need to get this plugged in and keep an eye on things. So.
Okay, I need to go to the bathroom for a second, little one. Go ahead. Talk to people for a moment.
Hi. Anyway, we're dropping our Costco membership as of February. I'm probably going to switch my prescriptions to CVS. Very, very annoying. Stock up on eggs, people. The egg shortage is ramping up again. We now have 2 stores in our neighborhood. 2 that we went to today that had egg shortage signs up, and the price is going up. And anybody who shopped at the U.S. Chef store here in town would have to be a full-blown idiot if they bought eggs there, I will say. Because they're charging, no shit, pretty damn near $1 per egg. Per egg, mind you, for large eggs. Can you believe that nonsense? The goddess is highly unamused by this. Just saying. But yeah, we're going to be dropping our Costco membership. It comes up for renewal next month, and it's going. So there is that. And the news has been fascinating this week. I'm sure everybody noticed that gangsta golf course move yesterday by our president. Thank goodness he's back. In case you missed the even funnier denouement to that, after he got home from the golf course, he reposted a meme on Truth that showed him dressed as a mobster next to a telephone pole that had a little sign nailed to it that said FAFO. Big grin on his face. Gonna be an interesting news cycle this week. And yeah, raise your own chickens if you can.
Well,
they just culled another battery farm out in the Illinois area.
Okay, what happened yesterday was they were trying to repatriate some Colombian citizens that were illegal immigrants here, and Colombia refused to allow the planes to land. So Trump says, Okay, you want to play that game? 25% tariff on everything.
50%.
50% by Friday if you
Yeah.
haven't changed your mind.
Well, they changed their mind and they said okay, and the president even offered to send his own presidential plane and pay
The
for it.
Colombian president.
Yeah, the
We're
Colombian
talking two presidents here, you know.
And yes, Paul, water glassing eggs will work. And by the way, I must tell you on that particular note, according to the United States government, who must always be trusted about absolutely everything because they are never, ever, ever lying to us, water glassing eggs is unsafe. Don't do it. Yeah.
You'll die.
Just letting you know. Oh, and you can never, ever water glass an egg that's been washed. Okay? He's coming back. Bye.
But anyhow, so let's say that's kind of our plans for this summer, but they're pretty free-form at this point. Last summer, it was pretty obvious what we were going to be working on. Probably not going to do much of anything with Montana B. We may clean up the landing down at the 40-foot level. We can probably do that in a weekend, and that would make it a lot nicer to access in the future. And so we may do a little bit there, but aside from that, no plans on Montana B at this point. Top of the hill, there's lots of interesting things up there, but exactly what to do, where to start and stuff is really questionable. We got 1,000-foot drift 500 feet below the surface, and there's supposedly a 40-foot wide zone of broken rock and quartz veins and stuff, and yet in no bit of documentation that we found so far does it tell you what the dip is. We know the strike because we got a map of the tunnel down there. You know, it's pretty easy to tell what the strike is. The question is, what's the dip? Where would we look for a surface intercept? So far, we can't find anything that we could just dig on. And it would be nice because it's patented land. So if we could find the surface exposure of that mineralized zone, it'd be like, yeah, let's get an excavator.
Oh, my grandmother's both water glassed eggs.
Yep. So, as I say, there's things like that that could change the plans in a heartbeat. Okay? There's the possibility of some project coming up that would change the plans in a heartbeat. Simply don't know. But right now, we don't have any what you would call firm plans. Well, we got lots of things to do. We've also got several tons of ore sitting out there at the mill that we could process, you know, and get the gold out of that. I say, there's lots of things to do, but in terms of what we're actually going to do and when we're going to actually do it, damn good question. Don't have an answer at this point. But we will be busy. We can pretty well guarantee that. Right now, we've got the house pretty livable. We got the firewood situation done. I've got a little bit to do on the water supply yet to make sure that it doesn't freeze up in ridiculously low temperatures. And I can keep busy doing stuff. I still have a few switches and outlets to replace. I got the master bedroom suite to redo. The kitchen needs a lot of work. So I got a lot of stuff to keep me from going crazy. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Right now, that's my focus right there. He goes into surgery in what is it? Just about 2 weeks, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
1 week and yeah. 2 weeks and 1 day she goes into surgery. So getting that all lined up and taken care of is number one priority, and then taking care of her after that is number one priority. And then after that, it's back to freeform. I've got a grandson that should be graduating university this spring semester down in
Keep it
Texas.
sad.
And we may head down to Texas to watch the graduation ceremony and maybe do a little cross Texas detour, which is like 700 miles, to a little place called Boca Chica and watch some kind of a fireworks display. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. It just disappeared.
Yeah. But so, and we may visit her son in Boston again. I don't know. Oh, and we've also got a wedding reception to go to, and is that July? I think you said it was mid to late July, wasn't it? Yeah. Here.
Whose name for what company, Paul?
So, as I say, that's, we got a busy summer. Who knows what kind of other stuff may just pop up. There may be some stuff Lauren needs a little bit of help with. We shall see.
Boca Chica, because that's where the starships take off from.
Yeah, that's where the starships get launched. SpaceX starships. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to watch a 40-story building take off. I've always been a space cadet, but I've never seen a rocket launch. And that would be way cool. That's kind of on my bucket list. So we'll see what happens. So, as I say, we may have some really interesting adventures. We shall see what we shall see. But that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything? And you must forgive me. I'm so terrible with names. Who was the gentleman that showed up tonight that was so knowledgeable?
Billy.
Billy. Yes, Billy. Thank you very much for showing up and for all your help.
Bill Ingram, I believe.
I really appreciate it. Please don't take it personally. I can't remember. There's times I forget her name. This getting old sucks. But yeah, thank you very much for showing up. You've been a great help. Yeah.
Paul said his post didn't send. He's looking for the author's name now for the video he was thinking of.
Okay. Yeah, it was showing up and then it disappeared. So I have a feeling somehow you pushed a button and deleted it. But yeah, something showed up and we were just starting to look and then it disappeared. So yeah. But I don't know if anyone has any more questions or whatever that we can try and work on. I want to thank everyone again for showing up, especially Billy tonight. Somebody new that really knows a lot of stuff.
He's been here once or twice
Really?
before, I think.
Okay. And then we got, Chris. We haven't seen Rock for a month or so at this point. I don't recall seeing Tricky Dicky either.
Yeah, Rock and Tricky have not been along
Yeah.
in a while.
Hold on, honey bunny. So, wondering what's going on there. Say Lars is having a bit of a difficult time right now because of the fires. So if you'd like to send him a donation, there's the address there. I will be sending him a little bit as soon as I get my Social Security check. And
The guy from Montana, I think it's Mount Baker Mining and Minerals. Runs a hard rock smelting water table, etc. That would be Mount Baker Mining, Paul. He's actually up there in Bellingham, Washington. But yeah, we know it. Jason, cool guy.
Yeah. You betcha. You take care.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, Mount Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Jason's good people, and he makes excellent videos.
Yeah. I've been having trouble. I haven't watched the last two because I'm just too damn envious.
Rocky Mountain Prospector is around too.
Okay.
Yeah. No, Jason over there at Mount Baker has very good videos. He's a really, really
Looks
nice
like they got
person.
a pretty good ore body there too. Oh man. Yep. So, as I say, we got lots of possibilities. This is a target-rich environment around here. Okay, you see what Chris said, Lars? Yeah, if he can help out, get a hold of him through me. I got the contact info.
And if anybody's got any mining questions before we close this down for the night, ask your questions.
Yep.
He always wants to be answering things. He posted a video the other day with a guy plotting out his mine on a grid plot map. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. Again, I was looking at it going, I should watch this, but I'm just too envious. I can't deal with it right now. I want to be mining.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we don't know how to plot things. It's just we don't have enough information.
As a matter of fact, some of the videos I just reposted with my playlist are on how to, map stuff with simple hand tools and such. You're basically using a plane table. But yeah, I should watch it, as I'm just a little depressed about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad for him. I'm also, I just noticed yesterday that Flower Gold Wizards had just broken 80,000 subscribers. Very good for him.
And Flower Gold Wizards is a really good dude.
He's a nice person too, and he does a good
Another
job.
Jason.
Yep.
Why did you get you an RT?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, right, Chris.
Again, this
around the time we win the lottery.
Again, this is one of those things where it would be nice if we had someone who just wants to throw money at the problem. That's this other guy that Jimmy knows may be like that, so that would be cool.
Yeah, he is pretty bad on names.
Yeah, I am. So anyhow, since I haven't seen any new questions or anything, I think it's probably about time to wind it up for the night.
Jeff Bybee says, maybe I'm mistaken, but I think Timu wanted to send me a mini excavator as a free gift.
Yeah, exactly.
And Dan, he will be checking his email. He always does.
Yep. Dan.
Brad is
wait a minute, hold on a second.
Utah.
Dan is one. Let me check this. Yeah. Hey, Dan, I tried calling you and left a message on your phone. Do you want me to
Sit back.
you want me to leave you my phone number on the email? I'll reply to your email and give you my phone number so you can call me anytime between 9 in the morning and 9 at night. It's
Brian,
pretty
no
good.
news on the x-rays at the moment because he hasn't gotten around to shredding more. We have to go back to the thrift shop and buy another $8 shredder as soon as we got enough money.
Yeah, we've had to be very conservative right now because we're at the end of the month. We've basically spent all the liquid capital right now, and we're waiting for next month to.
Yeah, I mean, if he had any paid work at all, And Billy says, my pleasure, Keith and Eva, least I could do. Well, anytime you want to stop in, dude, you are more than welcome. I can tell you that.
So, yeah, I say thank you very much. And Dan, I'll get back on the...
Brian says he's finding out he's getting 5 cents each.
Okay.
How would you feel about doing a video on mercury to recover and using household chemicals for recovery from the mercury?
I would be reluctant on that simply because the liability issues.
For a half-size x-ray, as Brian says.
Yeah.
Paul, one of the reasons I'd be reluctant, other than liability issues here in the U.S., is our videos get watched by a bunch of people in third world countries that are looking for cheap solutions to get their gold, which we very much understand. But when you've got people in third world countries that are asking you to help them use cyanide when they don't have antidote kits, and wanting to figure out how to use mercury, how to have their women and children handle mercury, no, this is not a good thing.
Yeah, I'd be kind of reluctant on that. That's not only old tech, it's illegal tech nowadays.
Yes. I mean, heaven forbid the feds find out that I might have a couple of thermometers with mercury in them that I didn't lose in my boating accident.
But yeah, I was saying, and that's why we don't mention mercury.
There are
There's very
reasonably
few-
safe ways of working with mercury, but you can't take shortcuts and get away with it. And that's the thing, Chris, is we know how YouTube people take shortcuts.
Yep. The other thing is there's very few things you can do with mercury that you can't do with gravity.
Yeah.
You know, there's sometimes it may be more efficient or a little higher throughput or whatever, but
I mean,
I've been
don't
able to do it with gravity.
get me wrong, Paul. I would love to play around with some mercury. I have nothing against the idea at all. I have a big idea against making a video on it.
Yep.
Public one, anyway.
Anyhow, so yep. As I say, I
You
understand,
have
but
to get a hold of some.
that's why I'm surprised how good I can do with the pan. I know that somebody who has a YouTube channel and is a pretty knowledgeable person was skeptical that I was able to recover below 150 mesh in a sluice. And it's like, yep, my microscope tells me I am. You know, as I say, it's pretty easy to tell. And especially if there's very little stuff smaller, there's not much below that. It's like, that seems to be the limit on that sluice. Yep. Well, especially if you got a simple gravity circuit ahead to grab any coarse gold. It depends on the ore, Brian. It is hugely dependent on the ore, you know? And that's another thing that a lot of people don't really understand well, is that, you know, Top of the Hill is radically different than Montana B. Hugely different. And so you got to do some analysis first and go from there. Anyhow, anyone else got anything? And again, thank you everyone for showing up. I'm sorry I'm kind of getting close to the camera.
Patrick, both ends on a snake is pointy. One end has eyes, the other end don't.
But my eyes are,
I've got a...
they're getting better, but it's still a little bit iffy at times. So,
I absolutely have to get over there.
yeah. Anyhow, I don't see anything else, so I think we'll call it a night for tonight. We'll be back here next week, but probably not the week after, because we'll be in Billings. So, I want to thank everyone for showing up. Go ahead, Honey Bunny. As I say, it's been a really good evening. See how many are still watching here? 22. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
John?
Happy prospecting and keep it safe out there.
Yeah. And
Good night, everybody.
John, you're absolutely right. Thanks, everyone, because we got a lot of input from a lot of people.
Yeah, access. What happened to the access? The original access is 500 feet down the hill and belongs to somebody else. There is a ventilation shaft that we have found. There are purportedly two, and they're plugged.
Yeah.
So.
No, the access is on somebody else's claim. Well, I say I got to actually be able to read to see these things because you're not reading every single one as soon as it shows up. So
No, most of them are inconsequential. Good night, Red Wing.
yeah. But
Good night,
yeah,
Dan.
the access is also caved to
Good
some
night,
extent,
Paul, and heavy pants to you too.
and there's no reliable ventilation at this point, so it would take a bit to open it up again.
Good night, everybody.
So
We will see you next week.
let's say, so happy prospecting and keep it safe out there, everybody. Y'all take care.
And you're off.